The world pretends to despise the ruthless. Yet behind closed doors, in whispers and in envy, they are the ones who command attention. The problem is simple. Why does humanity worship the very qualities it claims to hate? Today, we strip away the mask and reveal why the ruthless are secretly admired and feared. Man is a creature of contradiction. He curses the tyrant, yet bows to his authority. He denounces cruelty, yet craves the strength it represents. The weak disguise their admiration as resentment, for to openly praise the ruthless would expose their own submission. In this reflection, we do not flatter human virtue. We expose its corruption. To understand why men secretly admire the ruthless is to understand power itself, raw, unpolished, and unrepentant. This is not morality. This is the anatomy of domination. Strength is rarely what it seems, and yet appearances of strength often matter more than strength itself. Consider this. Most people are blind to the substance of power. They cannot weigh it, measure it, or even recognize it in its purest form. What they respond to, almost without fail, is the appearance of certainty, the projection of ruthlessness, the illusion of unshakable force. Do you see the irony? The crowd worships strength, but it is the mask, not the reality, that seduces them. History is littered with examples. Take Caesar Borgia. His armies were not the largest. His resources were fragile, his alliances unstable. Yet he appeared unstoppable because he acted with decisive brutality. He executed his disloyal commander Ramiro di Orco in the public square, cutting him in half for all to see. Did this make Borgia stronger in real terms? Perhaps not. But to the people, it made him appear untouchable. They admired his severity because it suggested that he could not be challenged. You may think people hate cruelty, but watch how quickly they rally to the man who displays it with confidence. This is the secret ruthlessness masquerades as strength. And strength, whether real or fabricated, commands loyalty. Pause for a moment. Ask yourself when you see someone who never hesitates, who cuts through indecision like a blade through silk, do you question whether their confidence is real? Or do you instinctively defer to them, assuming they know something you do not? That instinct is what rulers exploit. Psychology has long studied this phenomenon. Humans are drawn to authority signals, posture, tone, certainty. The ruthless master these cues. They never reveal doubt. They never display hesitation. Their decisions may be reckless, even foolish, but by acting with finality, they gain the appearance of power, and that appearance seduces the masses more effectively than reason ever could. Think of corporate leaders. The CEO who announces a brutal round of layoffs does not lose prestige, he gains it. Why? Because people believe he is willing to make the hard choices others avoid. Employees may resent him, but they also whisper about his strength. They begin to treat him as a man who cannot be opposed. The decision itself may have been nothing more than a financial calculation. But the perception it creates of ruthless certainty magnifies his authority. Here lies the Machiavellian truth. The illusion of strength is often enough to keep rivals silent and followers obedient. Let us descend deeper. Why does this illusion grip us so powerfully? The answer lies in fear. To live in a world of chaos is intolerable. People crave direction, even if it comes from a hand that crushes them. When someone projects ruthless strength, it gives the impression that order will be maintained. The alternative, weakness, hesitation, fragility, creates anxiety. So, people would rather admire the ruthless than follow the indecisive. Even when admiration is mingled with fear, it feels safer than chaos. Think of Julius Caesar crossing the Rubicon. The Senate wavered. His enemies plotted. But when he marched forward without hesitation, he transformed uncertainty into inevitability. His actual resources were limited. He risked everything. Yet his decisive action created an illusion of unstoppable force. Rome bent to him, not because he was already the strongest, but because he acted as though he were. The lesson is brutal but clear: you need not be the strongest. You must only appear to be. Now ask yourself, how many people in your life hold power over you, not because they are truly superior, but because they project certainty you lack? How many times have you mistaken confidence for competence, cruelty for clarity, decisiveness for destiny? This is the trap. You admire the illusion of strength because it resolves your uncertainty. You envy it because it reflects the control you secretly wish to possess. And even as you resist it, part of you desires to follow it. Do not comfort yourself with the thought that you are immune. You are not. No one is. The illusion of strength is one of the oldest manipulations in human history, and it works precisely because it bypasses reason. It reaches into your instincts, into the primal part of your mind that fears weakness and yearns for protection. That is why people admire the ruthless, even when they claim to despise them. It is not the cruelty they respect. It is the certainty that cruelty communicates. And yet, certainty is only one mask. There is another, darker force that binds admiration to the ruthless. One that transforms fear itself into respect. People despise the ruthless until they need them, and sooner or later everyone does. The truth is simple: human beings crave protection more than they crave freedom. They long for safety, for someone who will carry the burden of violence on their behalf. And in this craving, they secretly admire the ruthless, because only the ruthless seem capable of shielding them from danger. History makes this clear. Look at the Romans during the collapse of the Republic. They had grown tired of endless civil wars, of weak senators squabbling while blood stained the streets. They feared instability more than tyranny. So when Augustus rose with cold authority, centralizing power, many welcomed him. They surrendered their liberties for the illusion of order. They praised him not because he was kind, but because he was ruthless enough to guarantee security. Do you see the paradox? The very qualities people curse in times of peace, severity, cruelty, merciless judgment, are the same qualities they worship when they feel threatened. Ask yourself, would you not prefer a cold protector to a gentle weakling when the world turns hostile? This is the essence of the hidden desire for protection. Weak men dream of strong rulers. The defenseless secretly hope for a figure who will crush their enemies, even if that same hand enslaves them. Better to bow to one master than be prey to 1,000 wolves. Psychology confirms this instinct. Humans have a deep need for authority figures, especially in times of fear. Studies show that when people feel threatened by war, crime, or even economic uncertainty, they become more willing to accept authoritarian leaders. They call them decisive. They call them strong. But in truth, what they are admiring is ruthlessness disguised as protection. Think of modern politics. The candidate who promises mercy and compassion rarely wins in moments of crisis. The one who declares, "I will crush your enemies. I will protect you. I will not hesitate to be cruel if it saves you." That is the figure who gains loyalty. Even those who claim to hate him will secretly breathe easier under his shadow. Because protection is the highest currency in times of fear. Look closely at your own life. Do you admire the boss who is friendly, or the boss who ensures the company survives by cutting off weakness? Do you value the friend who soothes you, or the one who would fight mercilessly on your behalf? If you are honest, your respect leans toward the ruthless, because you know that when danger arrives, kindness will not shield you. This is why people admire crime bosses in stories. Not because they are moral, but because they protect their own with a severity no law-abiding citizen could match. To belong to their circle is to be untouchable, at least for a time. The ruthless understand this. They know that power is not only about domination, but about becoming the wall others hide behind. They manufacture threats or exaggerate dangers so that the masses will cling to them more tightly. Have you noticed this pattern? A ruler emphasizes chaos, instability, or enemies lurking everywhere. And then he alone offers safety. The people submit, not because they love him, but because they fear life without him. Protection is the invisible chain of loyalty. But here lies the cruelty: protection always comes at a price. The ruthless will shield you, yes, but only so long as your obedience serves their ambition. And the protection you receive is never free. It is paid for with submission, with silence, with the slow erosion of your independence. Still, people accept the bargain. Why? Because freedom is abstract, while danger feels immediate. People trade the distant ideal for the tangible shield. They do it willingly, even gratefully. Do not imagine yourself above this. If chaos struck your world tomorrow, if the laws collapsed, if violence spilled into your streets, who would you seek? The gentle idealist, or the merciless protector who promises order? The answer reveals why the ruthless are admired in secret. They embody the fantasy of safety through strength, even if it means surrendering dignity. Remember, admiration of the ruthless is not born from love. It is born from fear of exposure. The sheep praises the wolf when it prowls against other predators. The citizen praises the tyrant when he saves them from their neighbor's knife. And once protection is tasted, few ever return to freedom. But protection is only half the truth. The admiration of the ruthless does not end with safety. It deepens into something darker, an alchemy in which fear itself is transformed into reverence. Fear is the most reliable foundation of power, but men are cowards even in their emotions. They rarely admit to fear. Instead, they disguise it. They call it respect. When someone inspires fear, few dare to say aloud, "I am afraid of him." Instead, they cloak their trembling in admiration. They speak of strength, of discipline, of authority. Yet beneath those words lies the raw truth: they are afraid. Look back to medieval kings. Their rule rested not on love but on terror. A monarch who executed dissenters, who burned traitors alive, was not loved by his subjects. But the people spoke of him as a just ruler, or a mighty king. Respect was the mask they wore to conceal their own submission. They dared not call him cruel, for fear that the cruelty would turn upon them. Do you notice the trick? Fear creates silence, and silence masquerades as reverence. Consider Joseph Stalin. Millions trembled beneath his rule. Neighbors denounced neighbors, families turned on each other, all to escape suspicion. Did they confess they were terrified? Rarely. Instead, they praised him as a great father of the people. They raised his image in parades. They saluted him with rehearsed devotion, but their so-called respect was only fear dressed in ritual and propaganda. The ruthless understand this transformation. They know that fear, if left unacknowledged, festers into something more dangerous: forced admiration. When a man cannot admit his terror, he convinces himself that his submission is respect. He rationalizes it. He calls the tyrant worthy, admirable, even necessary. In this way, fear is not only endured, it is converted into loyalty. Ask yourself this when you stand before someone who intimidates you. Do you not often call it respect? Perhaps it is your boss who humiliates employees without consequence. Perhaps it is a political leader whose very presence silences critics. You may never whisper that you fear them. Instead, you call them formidable. You say they command respect. But strip away the polite language, and what remains is dread. This is the alchemy of power, fear transmuted into respect, whether genuine or false. Psychologists speak of cognitive dissonance, the discomfort of holding two conflicting truths. A man may hate the tyrant, yet depend on him. He may resent the cruelty, yet fear to resist it. To resolve this tension, he convinces himself that his obedience is not cowardice, but admiration. This is why fear becomes so difficult to distinguish from respect. People deceive themselves just to endure their submission. Now look at the battlefield. Soldiers follow a ruthless commander not because they love him, but because they fear his punishments. Yet over time, they begin to speak of him with awe. They say he is unyielding, unbreakable, worthy of command. What began as fear becomes myth, and the myth cements loyalty far more strongly than affection ever could. You might ask, is there not a danger in ruling through fear? Yes, but only when fear turns into hatred without disguise. The cunning leader prevents this by encouraging the illusion of respect. He forces rituals, symbols, gestures of devotion. These practices allow his subjects to conceal their terror, even from themselves. They kneel, they salute, they cheer, and in the act of performance, their fear is blurred into reverence. Think of North Korea. Citizens cry in the presence of their leader. Do you believe every tear is real devotion? No, many cry because they must, because not crying would be fatal, yet over time, performance reshapes reality. Fear drills so deeply into the soul that it feels indistinguishable from respect. This is why the ruthless rarely collapse. They understand that fear must never stand naked. It must be clothed, disguised, adorned with rituals of respect. Without the disguise, festers into open rebellion. With the disguise, it becomes a chain stronger than iron. But pause here. Do not look at history alone. Look at your own life. How many times have you called someone worthy of respect, when in truth you only feared their retaliation? How many times have you remained silent, mistaking cowardice for reverence? And how many leaders, in politics or business, thrive on your silence? Silence you pretend is respect. This is why people secretly admire the ruthless. Their fear cannot be confessed, so it is rebranded as respect. And in that rebranding, admiration is born. But fear disguised as respect is only the beginning. There is another reason admiration clings to the ruthless, one that strikes even deeper at the foundations of society. It is not fear, not protection, but rebellion against the very morality that chains ordinary men. Society parades its morals like banners in the street. It tells you to be kind, to forgive, to live humbly, to turn the other cheek. But when you look closer, what do you see? Hypocrisy. The same people who preach virtue violate it when no one is watching. The same rulers who condemn cruelty rely on it to maintain their power. The same citizens who despise ruthlessness secretly applaud it when it benefits them. This is why people admire the ruthless, not simply for their strength or protection, but because they expose society's hypocrisy. They strip away the mask of morality and reveal the brutal truth. The world is not governed by kindness, but by force. History offers endless examples. Consider Oliver Cromwell. He claimed to fight for God, for liberty, for the righteousness of England. Yet what secured his power was not holiness, but the ruthless crushing of his enemies. He dissolved parliaments, executed kings, and ruled with an iron hand. His hypocrisy was no greater than the hypocrisy of those he opposed, but he triumphed because he did not pretend weakness was strength. Or look at Napoleon. He rose in a France that proclaimed liberty, equality, fraternity, yet he crowned himself emperor. He betrayed the very revolution that birthed him. And still the French admired him. Why? Because he revealed the emptiness of the slogans they once shouted. He replaced hypocrisy with naked power. His ruthlessness was honest in a way their ideals were not. Ask yourself, why do people cheer for the rebel who breaks the rules? Why do they glorify the conqueror who tramples laws and conventions? Because deep down, they are weary of lies. They sense that morality is often a cage built by the powerful to restrain the weak. The ruthless break the cage, and though the crowd may never dare to imitate them, they secretly admire the defiance. This is the rebellion against hypocrisy. The ruthless embody what others only fantasize about. Freedom from shame. Freedom from the moral masks demanded by society. Freedom to act as one wills, unchained by the illusions of virtue. Look at the corporate world. Companies proclaim integrity, teamwork, and respect as their values. Yet who rises fastest in these organizations? The ruthless manager who cuts rivals out of the way. The executive who lies with confidence. The ambitious worker who bends rules without hesitation. And when these figures succeed, their peers whisper that they are harsh but effective. That is admiration, born from rebellion against the falsehood of the system. Everyone knows that kindness alone does not buy power. Psychology reveals another layer. People resent being deceived by moral farhades. They may play along publicly, but in private, they long for figures who break the illusion. The ruthless, by rejecting hypocrisy, embody an authenticity that others cannot. Their cruelty may be brutal, but it feels real in a world full of pretenders. This is why some dictators inspire fanatical devotion. They may lie about facts, but they do not lie about their intent to dominate. And people, oddly, respect the clarity of that. Do not comfort yourself by thinking you are different. Have you never admired the man who says aloud what others are too afraid to? Have you never respected the leader who ignores etiquette, who breaks tradition, who acts without apology. You may condemn him publicly, but a part of you envies his freedom, because he is rebelling not only against laws, but against the suffocating hypocrisy of social expectations. This is why admiration of the ruthless persists. They are not bound by the same chains. They live without masks. And even as their cruelty wounds us, we admire them for refusing to participate in the same lies we are forced to live by. But remember, rebellion against hypocrisy is not without danger. The ruthless destroy illusions, but in doing so, they create a void, and a void must be filled with something stronger, darker, and far more seductive than mere honesty. That something is control. The power not just to defy hypocrisy, but to bend others to your will. And that is the final secret we must confront. There is no greater aphrodisiac than control. Not beauty, not wealth, not even love. Control surpasses them all. When one man bends another to his will, something primal is awakened. It is not simply power, it is a form of intoxication. And it is why the ruthless are admired, even when their methods are despised. They possess control in its purest form. Think of Alexander the Great. He conquered vast territories before the age of 30. But his true genius was not the battles themselves. It was the control he exercised over men's loyalty. His soldiers marched across deserts, starved, bled, and yet followed him into the unknown. Why? Because he held their minds as firmly as he held their swords. They admired him, not only for victory, but for the spell of control he cast over their lives. Ask yourself what makes you admire someone. Is it kindness? Or is it the ability to impose their will when others hesitate? You may resent their dominance, yet part of you envies it. Because to control others is to be free from the weight of uncertainty. It is to shape reality itself. This is the seduction of control. Even in small things you see it. The politician who silences his rivals during a debate does not merely speak. He controls the room. The businessman who manipulates markets bends the wealth of nations to his ambition. The teacher who commands silence in a chaotic classroom does not just instruct, he dominates. And every observer, whether they admit it or not, feels the pull of admiration. Why? Because control reveals hierarchy, and human beings are addicted to hierarchy. Psychologists call it the dominance, submission instinct. Our ancestors survived in tribes where leadership determined survival. To admire control is to acknowledge the order of things. One commands, the others obey. It feels natural. It feels inevitable. This is why even those who suffer under ruthless leaders often admire them. They hate the pain, but they are fascinated by the mastery. Control is magnetic, and the one who wields it appears larger than life. Think of modern dictators. They bend entire nations to their will. They rewrite history, silence dissent, and reshape culture itself. Millions may live in misery, but millions also admire the leader who dares to command with such totality. It is not love that binds them. It is awe. The awe of watching one human being control the destiny of millions. And the truth is, you are not immune. Look at your own life. Do you not admire the colleague who seizes control of a chaotic meeting? The athlete who dominates the game, bending every moment to their rhythm? The lover who controls desire itself with confidence and composure? Control seduces you, even when you know it is dangerous. The ruthless understand this instinct. They do not waste time trying to be loved. They focus on control. They manipulate information, dictate narratives, set the frame of every conversation. And those who are controlled mistake their submission for admiration. They say is decisive, or she is powerful. In truth, they are entranced by the spell of domination. But beware, admiration of control is not always voluntary. Sometimes it is forced into you. Propaganda, rituals, commands repeated until obedience feels natural. Over time, the mind reshapes itself to find beauty in domination. What begins as resistance turns into respect, then into devotion. This is why the ruthless endure. They do not merely seize control. They make others love being controlled. The seduction is complete when the victim not only obeys, but admires their own chains. So ask yourself, when you see a leader who bends others to his will, do you despise him? Or do you envy him? And if you envy him, Is it not because you recognize the truth that control is the highest form of freedom? This is why people secretly admire the ruthless. Control is the ultimate display of human mastery. It reduces uncertainty, creates order, and elevates one individual above the crowd. And in a world of weakness, to witness such control is to witness a god among men. But there is one last question left unanswered. If the ruthless seduce us with control, if they draw admiration through fear, protection, and rebellion, what does this reveal about us? The answer is not about them. It is about the darkness in human nature itself. Power does not always roar. Often, it whispers. The ruthless are admired not because people love cruelty, but because cruelty cloaked in certainty, protection, fear, rebellion, and control awakens something primal in human nature. Most men cannot admit this. They cling to the illusion of virtue. But beneath their words lies the same truth. They follow strength, they bow to control, and they secretly envy the ruthless who dare to act without apology. Ask yourself, when you obey, do you call it respect? When you admire, is it not submission in disguise? And when you resent the ruthless, is it not because they reveal the weakness you try to hide? That is the real lesson. Control does not require consent. It requires understanding human nature more deeply than others dare to. Now, I ask you, what do you think? Have you admired the ruthless in your own life, even while despising them? Comment below and share your experience. Subscribe for more strategies drawn from the dark truths of power. And share this video. Let others see the world without its mask.